Hey, everybody. Welcome to Making Connections with Aly. I am your girl, Aly, and I hope everybody's having an amazing day, great Memorial Day weekend. And, while we're taking that time out to, cook and be with family and friends, let's remember that we are also celebrating Memorial Day, those who gave all to protect our country and so that we might be free. And, sometimes we forget what people have given, what people have sacrificed for our freedoms. And so make sure during the day as you're with your family and friends. And I think too, once you get so many years removed from some things like the World War I, One and Two, you know, um, even civil rights, you don't really know the impact that has been going on. And so definitely take the time, spend some time with your family, talk to your children about, what this day really represents. And so because we know that there's so many who gave their lives. And so we thank all the servicemen and women of today who are still serving, who are still fighting for our rights and our freedoms. So we definitely want to, send everything, good vibes and love and peace and prayers to you all. And I know there's a gentleman on my job who, he was in the Marines, I believe, but like today we can't give him any accolades. He's like, no. He said on Veterans Day you can talk to me, but today we're talking about the ones who lost their lives. So that is very just, it's important that we mention that. And so I hope everybody's having a great day. I'm excited about this conversation with Coach Tanya Bankston. Hey, Tanya.
Hey, Aly, thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be here on your platform.
Yes, I'm excited. And I know this is going to be a good show. And I know you probably saw my post. I was like, we ain't even got started, but I feel like there's going to be a part two because there's so much to talk about when we talk about this space, right? And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we're going to be talking about some of those different um, levels, but we can't cover it all in 1 hour, right?
Absolutely.
And so before we get started, I definitely want to give you an opportunity since you're new to our family, just to greet the family, tell them a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Okay. Hi, family. Once again, my name is Tanya Bankston. I am a mental health therapist. I am the change doula life coach, and I help women to reinvent themselves and to recover from that superwoman syndrome. That I can do everything, I can have everything, I can be everything all at once and just experience burnout. So, in a nutshell, that's who I am. I'm an author, I am a TV broadcast host. That's pretty much it. I'm a mom, a grandma.
She said, "That's it. Like it's nothing. It's so many, all those great things." And a lot of times, what I ask people, men and women alike, all the things that you do, and even when you're talking about, that superwoman, syndrome and trying to do everything, how do you get everything done? How do you, schedule it or prioritize?
Um, in a nutshell, you don't. In a nutshell, you don't. I mean, you can't be everything to everybody all the time. That's a fallacy that so many women, myself included, have
Mhm.
gotten into and taken on. And what it really does is it leads to burnout eventually. Um,
Okay.
in terms of prioritizing, it becomes very, very important for a woman to base her priorities based on her value system rather than what society says, rather than what she has taken on to be hers. But really, when it comes to the bottom line, a lot of times they're not her specific value system. So that is one of the key factors in overcoming that superwoman syndrome and being in that space where you're trying to do everything and be everything to everybody is to just stop, focus, get recentered on what's most important to you.
Mm. And and that's so important because I mean, truly, you cannot do it all. We only have 24 hours in a day, and at some point in time, you have to sleep, you have to eat, and it seems like those are the things we give up on when we're trying to do everything for everybody. And so true when you said some of the priorities or things that we have on our list are not really ours to do. It's somebody else's responsibility. It's cool to be like, encourage them, but I found out that instead of being a helper to people, I was being an enabler.
Yes,
And I was
absolutely.
like, oh no, they killing both of us. I can't do it no more.
Absolutely. And I've also been in that space where it's like, hey, we start out and um the leader steps up, the leader emerges, and then that leader is like me. Then I turn around and I look, I'm like, whoa, where's everybody else on the team? It's
Right.
like, okay, it went from a team of 10 to now a team of one. And it's like, okay, something got lost here in the message.
Hmm. And they could know because that team of one, oh well, she'll get it done. She always gets it done.
Exactly.
Yeah, but she didn't get to eat today. She didn't get to
Exactly.
sleep for 2 hours where you slept eight.
Exactly.
Stop it.
Exactly. Exactly. Stop it.
And so let's talk about how does that roll over maybe into our mental health issues or, some of the things we have going on with that.
So that's very important. So one of the things I like to remind people, there's a difference between mental health and mental illness.
Okay.
If you protect your space, your mental health, if you nurture it, if you are monitoring, you know, um, your sleep and your food intake and how much you're doing all the time, you're listening to your value system, you're listening to your body, you're dealing with your emotions. You're not necessarily just kind of like doing like I used to do, just kind of like tuck it away, don't deal with it, and then just kind of like forget to come back to it at some point. If you're monitoring all of that mental health piece, then you're preventing mental illness later on.
Mm, that's a very good thing, because I was, because, I always tell people, it's like, it's okay to get therapy, it's okay to get help. It doesn't mean that you are crazy. It doesn't mean that, because, a lot of people be like, well, I don't have no problems. I don't need no doc. It's not like to that degree, but that's a good explanation. That mental health piece, if you're not careful with it, will lead to mental illness.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that I like to tell my clients, speaking to a therapist is not about being crazy. Speaking to a therapist is about understanding that I have some life challenges that I need a professional to help me kind of like evaluate my value system or help me to understand that I need some additional coping skills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe I need some techniques in breathing. Maybe I need some techniques in balancing out and weighing out my options, um, just different coping mechanisms that maybe I wasn't taught. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't go to a class that said, this is how you cope.
Right.
Or this is how you take in, you evaluate and make a decision based on the assets and the liabilities and how nobody sat down and taught me how to do those things. I went through some difficult things in life, and because of it I got some difficult life experiences and some difficult life lessons, and I was like, whoa, don't go that way anymore. But going to a therapist is it's a safe, neutral place to talk, to unload, to unleash some of those um, unhealthy emotions that you may have, and to have someone not only help you to navigate it, but to help empower you by giving you some coping skills and some coping strategies that's going to move you ahead. So, like, it's good to talk to a family friend, your best friend, a sibling. That's good, but they're not necessarily trained to take you to that next level, to push you past your comfort zone, to help you not repeat the same negative type
Mm.
experiences that a therapist would help you.
Exactly. And a lot of times it could be, especially if you're talking to a sibling and you guys have grown up in the same household, have experienced the same trauma for, then, they're telling you what they would do, what you should do from the same trauma that you have. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, you have to take all those things into consideration. Um,
Absolutely.
and even sometimes, like, let's just say, like for me, if I'm single and you're married and you're having issues with your marriage or whatever, I can only tell you what I know about being a woman and how to continue to respect yourself and respect your husband. But I can't go to the same degree that you could counsel somebody on marriage. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
And that's actually a really, really good point that you bring up because, yes, I am married, and people who are single feel like they can't talk to me because I'm married. And I'm like, but I haven't always been married. I wasn't born into marriage.
right,
And to take it one step further, I'm not one of those type of people that has been married to the same spouse for like 20 or 30 years. I've gotten married, I've gotten divorced, I've gotten married again, and I have all of that to bring to it. So the question becomes is do you want to learn and move forward, or are you going to get stuck on who the message is coming from?
mm, true. That's a good point because I could even take that to church because you know how we are when the senior pastor's there, everybody's there. My Lord, can the senior pastor take a vacation? So the associate pastor comes to preach, and don't nobody want to show up. I don't want to hear him. He's not as good. He's not as dynamic. He's not as correct. Okay, but is he given? Is he or she given the word? That's
That's
what you
right.
came for.
That's
You
right.
came to get that word that's going to withstand you. That's going to help you fight off your temptations, your troubles. You know what I'm saying? But we
Absolutely.
get lost. We get caught up in, like you said, the person or the voice, opposed to
Absolutely.
what is the assignment?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just had that conversation just last week talking to a believer. I'm like, shame on you when a pastor, the associate pastor, is in the pulpit and you don't want to hear the message because it's not the pastor. Come
Right.
on now, that right there, yeah. Okay, you can ready to get me started on something else.
And think about this. If you love your senior pastor so much, again, people need a break.
Absolutely,
People need to take time away. They have a family, so they need to spend some family time. Maybe their kids are getting ready to go to college. Let them have a break. If you love them so much, understand what they're going through, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And because they're human, we're all going through the exact same human experience.
Right.
Being spiritual beings in a physical body that is affected by the same physical ailments and temptations and just that whole experience. We each have it.
Right. And just again, because you're married, or people who are married doesn't mean that they don't see people who are attractive to them. But you have to remember, okay, but now I'm married. I'm committed here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So they just think, oh, well, you got married. You don't understand. You don't know what it is. No, I understand what you're going through. I understand what's happening. But what do you want for your life?
absolutely.
Are you
Absolutely.
content with these temporary situations? Or maybe you need to go talk to somebody, get some therapy, and figure out what it is you want because maybe that's why you keep having these relationships.
Yes, and that's a really good point. When I am seeing a client for the first time, there are three things that I share with them outside of speaking about informed consent, which is just sharing with them, like who I am, what my style is in terms of counseling and things like that. I talk about confidentiality, and then I talk about three things. One, I share with them that this is a judgment free zone. So don't get caught up in feeling like you have to say something a certain type of way,
Mm,
for me to understand it, No, express yourself the way you need to express yourself. That's number one. The other thing I tell people all the time is that this is a tear flow zone. So sometimes you go to therapy, sometimes that virtual door closes, and it's like you just have to just unleash and unload. And it's okay. And I tell my clients, depending on what it is, I'm going to share those tears with you, meaning that
Right.
depending on what it is, we're going to be in session crying together. And it's okay. It's
Right.
okay. Um, and then lastly, I tell them never say you're sorry. You don't have to apologize because you had a moment that you thought you broke down. It's truly okay. This
Right.
is that space. It's a safe space. It's not going to be violated in any type of way. And you should be able to leave your therapy session and know that whatever you discuss, it stayed there, and walk away thinking, okay, she gave me something to think about so that I can move forward and change my situation.
Right. Exactly. And that is so important. Like you said, just be honest. We say that all the time on the show. If you do, tell the truth. Tell
Mm-hmm,
your part, the other person's part, whatever, but tell the truth.
mm-hmm,
Because it's only until you get that truth out that things are going to change. Because you can only counsel them on what the information they're giving you, right? And
absolutely.
so if it's faulty information, then you're going to get a faulty, this resolution that you're building together is not really going to work, but for
Absolutely.
so long.
Absolutely. And for me, um, I'm a Christian, but I don't just do Christian therapy.
Hmm.
To the believer, I tell the believer that we have um, all of the promises and the precepts and everything that God gave us in His Word. But we also have, in addition to that, the therapy techniques and interventions that we can utilize too. So we as believers, we have like a double measure. That's what I like to say to my believers. But I don't want people to feel like, well, I can't talk to her because she's a Christian and she only does Christian counseling. No, I'm a Christian who counsels, but I still pray for the people who are on my caseload. I pray not necessarily with them in session, but I pray before I even start my day, and I say, Lord, bless me and help me in a way to say something so that the person that I'm speaking to knows that it's you speaking through me. Share some type of wisdom with me that they know, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't talk to her about that.
Hmm. Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because that was going to be one of my questions was, for those who are faith and, they hear, well, you got to pray and you got to believe God. Okay, I've tried that. I I pray 5 times a day. I'm asking God for deliverance in this situation. But it's still not breaking. So, but they feel like if they go to therapist, then they're not having faith. What do you say to those people?
I think that that's a trick of the enemy. I think that that's just as much a trick of the enemy um, for a person to be in emotional pain or emotional anguish and they refuse to go to therapy because they feel like it's not in alignment or operating in faith just as much as it is a person who is a Christian and they have a broken foot and they decide that they're not going to go and have that foot reset and put in a cast because it's not in alignment, it's not operating in faith. I think that that's a trick of the enemy because both ways, whether it's a mental or emotional pain or if it's a physical pain, it's still pain.
Right.
It's still suffering that does not have to take place. It's still um, it's still a trick of the enemy that that person is not able to operate in the fullness. of the grace that God has provided them because they have this barrier that
Right.
that they can't get past.
Right. And you know, I mean, man, sometimes I get on that little line right there with the Christians, but
Yes, yes. And I try not to. I try. It just depends on who it is that I'm talking to. Sometimes I can just go right in and just hit it with the truth, and other times I have.
yeah,
Well, wait a minute. Tell me, if you have a headache and it's an excruciating headache, and you've prayed over it, you've had some water, make sure you're hydrated, you took a nap, you wake up, you still had a headache. Maybe you think it's your blood pressure, so you might take your blood pressure. You see that that's normal, and you still have this headache. What do you do? And then they say, well, I take some pain medicine or I take more pain medicine. And I said, no, why is it if you have like some emotional pain, you're crying, you feel depressed, you feel anxious, why is it then that when it comes to that, you'll just pray over, and then you'll just pray over some more, and then you just pray over some more, but you're still suffering, you're still in pain.
right. And true, because maybe even with your prayers, what are you praying? Uh, so you even have to, evaluate that. What am I? Because the words that come out of our mouth are powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because some people think they deserve this pain.
Absolutely.
Some people feel like, oh, well, I must have made this person mad, or I must have not dotted every I and crossed every T. Well, guess what? What if you didn't? There was one time when I was in church and there was some stuff going on, and I was just like, Lord, I know I didn't mess this up. I know I didn't forget about that. And He said, what if you did? He said, even if you did, guess what? You deserve grace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I try as much as possible to educate clients. So,
Hmm.
like that scenario right there that you just named is perfect um, a perfect scenario that lines up with a form of therapy called ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy.
Hmm.
And so helping a person to get to a space that, okay, what if that what you said is true? How would you handle it from that point? To come to acceptance instead of always trying to change, to control, to manipulate. Find some acceptance in it. So,
Right.
it's like over 400 different types of therapies.
Wow.
So with so many of them, surely there's a form of therapy that can help everybody.
Right. And it's the same thing I tell people, even like with doctors. You might go to this doctor and you feel like this doctor is not paying you any attention. All they do is when you show up, they just give you another drug. They're not really listening to you. So what do? You typically find another doctor. If this
Absolutely.
therapist or this counselor is not giving you what you need, they're not the only one in the book. Keep going
Absolutely.
until you find that perfect fit that's for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it helps when you're looking for a therapist to know what you're looking for.
Mhm.
When I have somebody new speak to me, I generally ask them, hey, did you view my profile online? And if they say yes, I'll ask them, what about you, or what about what you saw attracted you to me?
Mhm.
And then sometimes they'll say, well, actually, I wanted somebody else, but that person, their calendar was full. So they said, oh, she would be good. So then it's like, I'm feeling some kind of way. But generally, it generally works out the way it's supposed to.
Mhm.
But go into it knowing what you want. Do you want a female? Do you want a male? Do you want a Christian? What ethnic background do they want? What type of training do you want them to have? I
Right.
mean, these are questions that you should know before you start to kind of like look for a therapist.
And that's good because the first time I went to there, I didn't think about any of that. I was just like, well, People keep saying I need to go. Da da da. Maybe I might have been in some trouble. I had to go anyway. But I was just like, I'm just going whoever's open or whoever was the cheapest, because I
Mm-hmm.
really don't want to be there. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
I
those
had
are good questions. When you really are ready,
yes.
take your time before you make that commitment.
I had a client a few months ago that was like, I looked at your picture and you look like you would be a good mama figure, and you look like I was like, you trying to say I'm old enough to be your mom? But people look for different
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
but first and foremost, the fact that they're going, that they're trying, especially for people of color, because we're generally speaking the last ones to get therapy, and generally speaking, we're the first ones to end it. So it's like um, you go to therapists for a problem that you've experienced like 20 or 30 years of your life, and then you go to 2 sessions and say, this ain't working. Huh? After 2 sessions? Really?
Right. No, what's happening is it's making you feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
It's making you
Absolutely.
feel vulnerable.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
unveiling some things. You like, I got to get
Absolutely.
out of here because it
Absolutely.
is. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to anybody that it's easy because when you're revealing some of this stuff, oh my gosh, it's painful sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes it's taking you back to a situation. Sometimes it's triggering stuff. So you
Absolutely.
are going to have those moments. But I say, just like, when people tell me when I go to the gym, it's going to hurt. And if you go one day and then you skip 6 months and you come back, you're going to be hurt when you come back. But if you stay the course, if you be committed, then it's going to get better. And, so it's the same thing with therapy, right?
Yes, absolutely. 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 Give it some time. And I mean, if you go to therapy and something just doesn't feel right in terms of that person being the therapist of choice, then find another one.
Hmm.
But don't stop.
Don't stop that part. And so, taking care of our mental health, the care part before we get to mental illness. Like, what are some of the things you would tell people to do, to take care of themselves so that the mental health doesn't turn into mental illness?
Okay, I have a lot. One, first thing, boundaries. Check your boundaries. What are your boundaries? Women, as women, we are here in our country, here in the United States, we are socialized to be givers, to be nurturers, to do. So sometimes we can get kind of caught in that space where it's like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And then the list goes on and on and on and on. Well, at the end of the day, you're at the end of the list. So you haven't done anything in terms of replenishing yourself. You've given out all of this energy, all of this space to everybody else. But
Hmm.
what have you given back to yourself? That might look like um, learning to say no. No,
Amen.
no, I cannot make that commitment.
Hmm.
No, I cannot show up. No, I cannot do this. Or just no, just flat out no, no explanation. That so checking your boundaries, um, not bending, not modifying your boundaries, just articulating your boundaries, and then you acknowledging that they're your own boundaries and respecting your own boundaries.
Yeah.
Those are ways that you can protect your mental health. Get to a space where your value system is yours. It's not based on what grandma said, what mama said, what Aunt Betsy said. It's this no, this is truly who I am and how I feel, and I'm okay with it.
Hmm.
Um, checking your coping mechanisms. If you have a problem and you have a issue, are you using, watch this, I know some people are not going to like this, but it's the truth. Are you using alcohol? Are you using drugs, marijuana? Are you using marijuana to help you to cope, to help numb out some of those emotions, some of those thoughts that you don't necessarily want to deal with? Are you just numbing them out?
Right.
That's another thing because, yeah, you feel good about it today, but you're setting yourself up for a bigger problem tomorrow.
Amen.
Um, so in terms of coping skills, are you spending time with mindfulness, in the moment, or is this something like are you spending a whole lot of time worrying and anxious about the what ifs?
Mm-hmm.
All of these are coping skills and mechanisms that, if not put in check today, can cause some mental illness to creep up at a later time. Another thing that I know I was notorious for, I did this so much, it got really, really bad, compartmentalizing.
Mm-hmm.
I would compartmentalize things and not deal with them, emotionally. So emotionally, it caused a split. And when I tell you I had reached a space that because I had compartmentalized so much, I couldn't get in touch with my feelings. For years, I couldn't cry. I could not tap into
Wow.
tears. I could,
Mm-hmm.
I could not. There was a certain amount of um, coldness, deflection, just I was just removed from my emotions because I had compartmentalized it so much. And I never went back to resolve any of those issues that were put in that compartment. You know, I would just say, I don't have time to deal with that. I got to keep it moving. I got to keep it moving. I got to keep it moving. But at some point, all of that stuff started to snowball.
Right.
But yeah, these are all examples of things left unchecked that can cause some mental illness later on down the line.
Exactly. And I think you're right about those things that we never go back to.
Mm-hmm.
And, we think, I mean, it could have been something that happened on a job and you left that job. So you're like, oh, okay, that's behind me. But did you deal with what happened? And I mean, if it was so intense that it made you go to another job, that's pretty serious.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, and when you're not dealing with it, and like I've had triggers with people, and I mean, we weren't even really dating, but they might do something that reminded me of a man that I was dating, and I'm like, oh wait, we're not even dating. So what is that? But I would go off on that person, like, but it's because I didn't deal with what I
Absolutely.
was feeling. And so, I just think all these things are so important. And you have to figure out, your coping mechanism, the one that really works for you, might be different for me. So your sister might go do this and it always makes her feel better. Your brother or your best friend might go do this and he always feels better. So I'm going to do it too. I'm going to try to run 5 miles a day, knowing I'm about to kill myself.
Right. Right. Right.
That
Right.
ain't gonna work for me. I'm gonna be mad about that.
Right.
Why can't I run 5 miles a day? If I could just then you're adding more pressure to yourself. Like you
Comparing that comparison,
don't
that
do it.
comparison. You ran five, so let me do. That's another thing that gets us in trouble. It's like, okay, really run your race. Run
Right.
your race. Get really, really, really good at running your race, and don't do that comparison because generally, when we compare ourselves to other people, generally we're going to fall short of something.
Right.
We generally don't compare ourselves and say, yeah, I'm better in this and I'm better in that and I do this better. No, it's like, I don't do this as good.
Because I don't like to run.
Right.
I don't even have the right shoes to run. I have not been training to run for the past 3 years. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get out here and try to run 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's not that you can't do it. you're not prepared like the other person is, you know? So definitely, like you said, figure out what works for you.
Yes.
Run your race.
Yes.
Figure out if it's boundaries. Figure out if you need to say no. But
Yes.
again, you have to do that self-evaluation.
Yes, yes, and that's something that's ongoing because the person that you are
Mm,
today is not going to be the same person that you are 5 years from now, or let's say
exactly.
it shouldn't be. I mean, at your core, absolutely yes. Abs- your core values, your core morals, and things like that.
Right.
Those things are going to probably stay pretty much the same, but you should be evolving and becoming a better person today than you were 5 years ago, and that you'll be 5 years from now. So you should
Right.
always be about the space where you're growing and becoming a greater version of yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and that's what we're here. You know, we want to encourage you to be the best person that you can be. Tap into your gifts and your talents, you know, the visions that God has given you. You know, deal with whatever you had to deal with, you know, in the past. And the way you deal with it is not going to be, even like I talked about, you know, you and your sibling growing up in the same house, same situations. But the way you deal with it might be different from the way they deal with it. Maybe it didn't affect them to their core like it did you. So it's so many different variables into this. But I definitely want to get into what happens when you're not taking care of those things and it does lead to mental illness. What does that look like?
So I have to be really, really careful because I don't want to make it seem as though I'm diagnosing anybody. That's not what it's about. But
Absolutely.
so I want to, if I can, I brought my book just to kind of like show, like, so this is the book that mental health therapists and clinicians and psychologists and psychiatrists that we use to diagnose mental disorders. It's like almost 900, well, no, it's more than 900 pages.
Wow.
So it's got all kinds of different mental illnesses. So it's not like we're just like making up something.
Right.
But if a mental illness or mental disorder were to occur, then we would take the book, look up the symptoms, and then do an evaluation and then make an assessment or a diagnosis based on that. So that could be um, there are anxiety type based disorders, there are mood disorders that are, talk about depression. I mean, it just depends on what the symptoms are.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, you know, even with that, there's so many different things, you know, and you know, we only know with depression or suicide, suicidal tendencies. You know, we only if that book has got those many disorders, there's some stuff in there we don't know about. So again, that's why
Absolutely.
you go to a professional to get some help and begin that healing process. But I guess it's just it bothers me so much when I hear about like the shootings in Texas. You know, you think what was going on? You know, was it so much anger? Because I was talking to somebody the other day and I was saying, my godson, I'm not sure he don't mind me talking about, but when he was middle school, he was angry about some things. You know, he and you could tell, but he still tried to be a good kid and do. But I could tell just some underlying things, and I was like, oh, where is this gonna go? But
Mm-hmm.
he found an outlet in football. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He found his tribe to spend time with and stuff like that. But, again, I think about, what happened. Did they not have a tribe? Did they not have people they could turn to? Did they just not know other options? And then I think about Miss USA who committed suicide. And, you're just like, from the outside looking in, you're like, what's wrong? She had so much going for herself, but
Mm-hmm.
evidently there was still something missing, right?
And and those are examples that really tug at your heart. So anytime I hear suicide, immediately my mind goes to a space where it's like, okay, I'm like super vigilant, and what can I do? I've had clients who had suicidal tendencies. Um, and every state has protocols that the therapist has to follow when you're talking about a person who has suicidal ideations. But for me, because number one, my brother, as a matter of fact, today commemorates 28 years that my brother passed away from suicide.
Wow. So
So
sorry to hear
thank you. Um, so I was that person who talked to him last,
that. Oh, wow.
and I didn't hear the message, but he didn't speak it in a way that I could hear. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There are teachings that teach us, you look for this, you look for this, you look for this, you look for this. Well, he wasn't displaying that, so I missed it. So I then went on the survivor's guilt. That lasted for at least 6 or 7 years, where I felt guilty. It affected my relationship with God because I was really, really angry with God. I'm like, you knew, and yet you didn't send anybody to save him, or, it took a lot of therapy, a lot of prayer, a lot of healing to get past that space. Um, it was very, very traumatic. So, um, as I sit on the other side as a survivor, I know what it's like. And I've shared with clients in my sessions who had suicidal tendencies that experience, to let them know is that right now you're in a sad space, you're in a dark space, but it doesn't last always.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that you would make a difference to somebody's life if you weren't here. But let me share with you the result of somebody who did pass on, and the type of feelings that had to be kind of like healed from as the result of it. So it does make a difference. It's it's heavy.
Wow.
It's heavy. And at one point, the agency that I was working with, they constantly gave me people who were having suicidal ideations, and I had to say, "Whoa, wait a minute, stop, stop. This is not my specialty area.
Mm-hmm.
This is an area that I experience, but it's not my specialty area."
Right.
So yeah, in terms of, there are some signs, there are signs, but are we always looking for them as lay people?
Right. Right. And I think that's good what you're saying, even about, being on the other side, you didn't hear it, and you went through that guilt of, because we do that. I mean, because maybe they said it 10 times before, and maybe they really said it 10 times before. Well, I'm just gonna kill myself, nobody likes me, da da da. And then you just like, okay, here we go again, because they
Mhm.
angry, you can't.
Mhm.
But this time it happens, and you're like,
Mhm. Mhm.
they
Mhm.
said it. What was I thinking? Why did I respond in the way I responded?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we're not responsible for other people's decisions, right?
Absolutely. 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 My brother was very smart, very talented, very funny. He went to work every day. He paid his bills, and I mean, very responsible person, bodybuilder. So we found out about his suicide because he didn't go to work.
Mm.
His job was like, wait a minute, he never misses work. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he never spoke about that. But he was depressed. He had long-term depression.
Okay.
And so that association alone, depression, and that's not saying that every depressed person will commit suicide. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm just saying that there's a connection. And sometimes we need to listen more intensely. And sometimes we need to just flat out say it. Listen, are you having thoughts of suicide? Period. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't beat around the bush. Just say it. Do you plan to harm yourself?
Mm,
Just ask the question because that alone can save a life.
truly, truly. And and there are numbers that we can call, and in the different states and cities, you know some of those numbers are already plugged into my phone, just
Absolutely.
because I'm like, with
Yes,
the work I do and the people I meet, I never know, and I
absolutely.
might not have time to look it up. So
Absolutely.
some of those I've already plugged into my phone.
Absolutely.
So if I run across somebody, especially like, it happened to me one day, and I didn't even do it then. It was after the fact. But this person was having a marital problems. There's people from church, and and he had a gun, and he was like, and I mean, I was toe up, and I was just like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I say? And I'm like, do I go over there? And then I'm like, and it's so much to think about. And so even with that, I think sometimes you have to call that number to get assistance for yourself.
Absolutely.
If that person's not calling, you have to say, okay, this is what I've heard. I don't know what to do with this information. What do I do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good space to be in. The fact that, like you said, you plug those numbers in your phone. It's a preparation. Unfortunately, we live in this society. Things like this happen. My heart goes out to the people in Buffalo just
Mm,
going to a grocery store
right,
and never making it home, going to school and kids never making it home.
right.
Our society, I mean, it's so sad.
It really is. And and two, in that sense, we have to be mindful. Like you said, we have to be vigilant. We have to be watchful.
Yes,
Where we're going. Who's around. And before, if somebody looks suspicious, you'd be like, well, you don't want to call attention. But now it's better to be safe than sorry. You see
absolutely.
something that makes you feel uncomfortable, go with it.
Yes,
Figure out what's going on, get out of the situation,
yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
is.
And I remember when I was in grad school, I had this conversation. Well, actually, it ended up being a debate with one of my professors, and I was telling her, I said, well, when I go into a situation, any situation, if I'm going into a store, if I'm going into an office building, I identify in my mind where the exits are. This is something that I just do, period. And I've been doing it for years. And so my professor said, well, Tanya, that's the trauma response. And so I said to her, I said, do you watch the news? It's not a trauma response. It's a preparation response so that if something goes down, I know how to get out of the situation. She said, Tanya, that's a trauma response. And so I'm debating back and forth with her. And then it clicked in. It's like, number one, she can grade you. Okay. So she can fail you. You might want to stop with her, number one. But it still prompted me to do some more digging and learning about myself. And yes, I did find out that what she said is true. That is a trauma response. The young lady who in the school shooting, she covered herself in blood and played like she's dead to survive that. That's a trauma response. She's going to be dealing with that for a long time,
Wow.
you know.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, our society is kind of like that. That you have to be proactive because it can save your life and save somebody else's life.
right.
But as a society, the fact that we have to do those things, that's not saying a whole lot.
Exactly. Exactly. We wish we didn't have to. We wish, even as brown skinned people, we didn't have to have extra conversations with our children, but we do.
Yes, yes,
And, until we don't have to, we do.
Right, right. And this side of heaven, we do, period.
Yes, yes. Wow. And and then again, I just pray that everybody who was involved, I mean, you could just be in the community. You might not even had any children at that school, but now you're scared, like you said, to go out.
Yes, yes, yes,
They had resource officers. And this still happens. So what if I go to the bank? They don't have guards and stuff like they used to. So I know they're opening up resources for people to talk to and work out the situation. So I pray they truly take advantage of that. The people in Buffalo, I hope that they're talking to somebody. Oh my gosh, I'm scared to go in my house. And it's real and it's okay to feel that way
yes,
because you went through trauma, you went through a situation.
yes, yes. I had a family member ask me recently, um, what happens in terms of trauma response, um, to serve communities when a shooting takes place. So I was sharing with her some of the things that, like, a cry goes out or a call goes out to the community, like the mental health community, and therapists who have been trained in this immediate crisis response.
Mm,
They get deployed. I know the Red Cross has a mental health portion where they send therapists out there to train, but um, you have the therapists who come and they apply immediate type crisis intervention assistance to the families and to the victims. And then after that immediate crisis has been addressed, then you have more long term therapists to come in and
okay.
provide trauma based therapy for a longer period of time.
Okay. Whew. It's a lot.
It is. It
And
is.
it, like you said, it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
And the parents that have to deal with children who did make it home, but they're still reliving it.
Yes.
Scared to go to sleep, and
Yes.
don't want to leave mom and daddy's side, but mom and daddy have to go to work. It's a lot to deal with, and so I implore anybody, please share this video today. If you don't share anything that I've ever presented, please share this because it is so much information, and it's really just the tip of the iceberg. Um, because we definitely want you to. We talked about it at a women's conference, and they were talking about, well, what do you do to take care of yourself? That self care, and people are like, get my nails done, get my hair done, and what we talked about was that self maintenance,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
that is not self care.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times we've heard these words and we're thinking, well, I'm taking care of myself. I took myself out to dinner, to a movie. Yeah, but did you come home still feeling like you feel? Anything shift, anything change? So, we're learning, and I'm grateful for people like you, Coach Tanya, who are helping us. And I say us because, you never know what situation you're going to find yourself in. And I really try not to judge people on whatever they're doing. Like, I mean, even like, I'm just going to throw this out there, the Will Smith thing. It was not the best response, but I'm not going to judge him because that's the first time I've heard of him doing anything like that. So
Mhm.
there's something else that caused that to happen. I
Absolutely.
don't know who I might slap one day. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not judging. So I'm just saying, if you have any feelings, if you're going through stuff, if your mind is just cloudy and you can't figure out day to day situations,
Yeah.
I would say it's time to start looking for some help.
Yes. Absolutely. And it's all kind of search engines specific to therapists and psychologists and social workers. Like Psychology Today is one of them. Another one is Therapy for Black Girls. I mean, but there's so many of them that provide resources for clinicians based on ethnic backgrounds and um, sexual preferences and things of that nature, that is no excuse for someone not to seek out the help that they need. It's just no excuse.
Right. Right. And that's what I tell people, even, about being an entrepreneur and things like that. Right now we have so many different options where we did not have those options before. And we did get labeled if we sought some of the options. But now, look, you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your family and you have to make sure that they are well. I tell people all the time, okay, you have children, but eventually they're going to be grown.
Yes, absolutely.
You cannot do everything for them because eventually one day you are not going to be there to do it for them.
Absolutely.
So don't you want to equip them to
Ab-
be able to make decisions and to see things that are right or wrong for themselves? So,
Absolutely.
it's just we say we sometimes hmm, that love has to be a different kind of love. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? That's a really good point because even in my therapy sessions, I bring that up to my clients. I remind them, don't get attached to me, the therapist. Get
Mm-hmm.
attached to you, the person who is healing, because there's a possibility that one day I may not be here,
Right.
but the healing and the progress that you have made, you should continue that whether I'm here or not.
Mm, very good point.
So,
Very good point. Well, Tanya, our time is running out, but this has been really, really good conversation. And so I definitely want you to tell people how they can follow you, reach out to you if they need, want to talk to you about counseling. And I think you have a book. Tell them where they can get all your good stuff.
okay, so yeah, of course so my website is www.change, it's right on the screen, changedoula.com. There you can go on it. You can plug into like my Psychology Today page to um, get more background on my counseling experience. That website talks about the books. This is my book, my baby, The Art of Reinvention. So I talk about different brushstrokes, and I call it brushstrokes life challenges. So, life challenges are things that I've experienced, like domestic violence, um, a sexual addiction, suicide, all of these type of things that I have personally gone through, and I talk about it from a standpoint of how to help people just go through their life experience. Um, so yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And then of course I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I even have a TikTok page, but I need some help in that part.
Right, right. Yes, come on, TikTok. And tell them when your show, Brushstrokes, is on.
Ah, yes. How can I forget that? So every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Brushstrokes show is on. And the Brushstrokes show is actually based on this book. And basically, what we do is we educate, we empower people to pick up their paintbrush and use their life experiences to redefine their living masterpiece. So
Mhm.
that's how the brushstroke show. But this coming Tuesday, tomorrow night, you really, really want to tune in because what we're going to do is we're going to simulate what a therapy session look like. So for those people who are on the fence, they think they might want therapy, but they're afraid. We're actually simulating a therapy session. So
Hmm.
good, good, good stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to tune into that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Tanya. This has been great. And like I said, I believe there's more that we can go into. And so, we might have a part two maybe next month.
Yes, okay.
And because, like we said, we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're always going through different situations and circumstances. So never get stuck.
Yeah,
Know that, I tell people, and this is just my opinion, I'm not a professional, but I tell people that, life is like the seasons of the earth. There's four different seasons. And if you hang on, summertime, you be hot, you be sweating, you got to get in that hot car. But if you just hold on, fall is coming.
that's right. That's right.
So you just hold on in your life, hold on, get the help you need, make some changes. If you hold on, it's just a season, and seasons do change. So
Absolutely.
be encouraged, wherever you are, and please get the help you need.
Yes.
If it's, a counselor, if it's a life coach, if it's a business coach, like she said, there are so many different aspects. Maybe in your business you're stuck and you need a business coach who can give you business strategies. Try that. And then, I got multiple coaches. I got a coach, I got a therapist, and okay,
Me too.
because I know what I have been through, and I know how long I have suppressed it, and I know that I'm tired of living that way. And
Yes.
it was time to do something different, and it's okay. And before 2 years ago, I would say 6 months ago, maybe I wouldn't have told y'all that.
Mhm,
They
mhm.
ain't gonna be talking about me going to therapy. But hey, it's okay. Talk what you want to talk, because I'm gonna be talking to my therapist. So go ahead.
Me
It has
too. I can't
been
wait for my sessions. I'm like, "Listen, I got to tell you this. I got to tell you this. I got to tell you this."
So, it's like that. And so that's why we can smile today. That's why we can be genuine. That's why we can tell you it works. So make sure you do what you need to do. You don't have to do it the same way your mom, daddy, brother, sister did it. You do what you need to do to be the best person you can be and show up as the best mom, dad, brother, um, entrepreneur, whatever it is that the universe needs from you. Okay.
Yes.
So we are making connections, and we're here every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Saturday at 12 p.m. So, go like us on Facebook, and I'm kind of like Coach Tanya on IG. We have IG, but you probably get more information on Facebook. And so reach out to us. And, we just appreciate you. We appreciate you for listening, and definitely share this video, because we come to bring this information to help as many people as we can. If you're in Detroit, I don't really know that many people in Detroit. So if you're watching from Detroit, share it to your society, to your community, okay? Because we all have to heal together.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So Coach Tanya, thank you again. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. I will talk to you soon. I'll be signing in tomorrow to Brushstrokes to see that. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
And so, you guys, until next time, as always, we're always leaving you with love, positivity, and good vibes. Go be great. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye, Coach.